Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Writers Roundtable. I'm Dami Miller, and for those of you that don't know, we are a group of historians and writers that get together bi-monthly, and we talk about our projects and we have presentations. So tonight we're going to have a presentation from the interim director of the Crispus Attucks York History and Culture Center. But before we get started with the main presentation, Jamie Norpel is going to come up and say a few words.
Thanks, Dami. So if you missed it, one of the talks of the year is happening next week, December 11th. The York County History Storytellers Evening is here at the York County History Center. I am not kidding when I say that tickets are almost sold out. So if you want to come to this event, again, December 11th here at the History Center, we're going to have 6 different speakers, including Stephen Smith is here tonight, Jude Lloyd, Scott Mingus, Dami, Jim. We do a bunch of different talks. So you can buy those tickets online going to the yorkcountyhistorycenter.com, right, Nicole? Org.org. Tickets are $10 and they all go towards the York County History Center. Now I'm going to welcome up Nicole to talk about updates of the center.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out this evening. Just a really quick announcement from the History Center. A reminder that all of our programs are recorded and will be available on YouTube. If you just look up York County History Center. And tomorrow night, we have First Friday, which is tree lighting downtown. And we'll also have tours of the Gates and Plow with hot chocolate, should you be so inclined. Our next program after Storytellers is that Saturday, the 13th, which is a family day with holiday activities for kids and kids at heart. That's really all. Then we take a break for the holidays. So for more information on next year's programs, please visit yorkhistorycenter.org. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jim McClure. I'm part of the publications committee that every year does the Journal of York County Heritage. I see Scott's Deisley's here and Steve and others that we do this. And this year we had the biggest, fattest one ever, and also the most costly one, I should add. So, but we do this every year, and next year the deadline for 2026 is passed. So you can start working on your stuff for 2027. December 1st is the deadline for that. And people do work on these all year. This year, the submissions are closed. We have enough to have another fat journal this coming year that is themed on America 250, although we'll have other types of articles in there too. So that's one of the reasons that we have this group here is to kind of get submissions to the journal every year and try to inspire you all to do the same. And so, just put on your calendar, December 1st is your deadline. December 1st of next year is your deadline for 2027 for your submissions for this. My pleasure here tonight to introduce our speaker, Scott Deisley. And Scott was 12 years superintendent at the Red Line Area School District. And you think about all the skills it takes to be a superintendent, all the skills it takes to be a superintendent for 12 years, which is it takes all kinds of special skills, people skills, and just being really smart to do that. And so when he retired, he brought all those skills into the history community. And so the project he's been part of have been really important projects and difficult projects. He's one, for example, he's been part of the Hard Bargains project that's going up, I guess, right outside here. He's on the publications committee. One of the things the publications committee of the History Center has been doing, we've been working on a children's book, which really does, using Lewis Miller's art, which really is a challenge for us, some of us, not for Scott, but for some of us who aren't into that type of material. But that project's moving along. And he's also on York County History Center board and other things I'm no doubt missing. Oh, he was also part of the committee with Stephen and June Lloyd and myself. And we kind of vetted the museum downstairs that everybody enjoys. We kind of vetted the script for that, checked it factually, and made sure it was there wasn't holes in it, in the storylines, things like that. Scott was part of that. So it's hard to retire in York County, they say, and Scott's exhibit A of that. So without further delay, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Deisley will be talking about the Crispus Attucks History and Culture Center and how that project's going and what we can expect when it's up. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Jim. Just a little bit about myself. My background, I'm an English teacher by trade. So how I got into the historical side of things, there's probably a long story to that. But I've always said that if I had the option to go back and do it again, I would have loved to have married that English teaching degree with a history degree and tell stories that way. And I'm getting the chance to do that here at Crispus Attucks. So kind of a dream of mine that just came by circumstance and luck. Couple other things I like to do in my free time. I do work with another organization that's probably new to all of you. It's called the Wrestlers in Business Network. It's an organization nationally. We're 25 chapters, and we focus on collegiate and high school wrestlers. And we help to connect wrestling, the wrestling community, whether buy from, hire, work with other wrestlers. So it's just a service that the sport has provided. So it's been rather fulfilling being able to work in that capacity as well, and working with these young athletes nationally to help set them up with careers and internships. So kind of a varied list of things that I like to do. I want to talk to you today about the Crispus Attucks History and Culture Center. And here we stand in this beautiful facility, world class. And I'm not saying that, as Jim mentioned, I was a small part of this program here, but it is a world class facility. So one of the questions we get asked all the time is, why in the world would Crispus Attucks need to build one just 0.9 miles or whatever up the road? And I think we have a good answer to that question. And we're going to talk about the story that Crispus Attucks has to tell. Crispus Attucks, when I think about the history of that organization, I kind of lump it into three categories. I look at it in 1931, I look at 1968, 69, I look at 1979. And then, of course, there's the beyond. But we're still in the 1979 phase of Crispus Attucks history. Do the math real quickly, we're coming up on 100 years. So what kind of stories do we have to tell? Well, we have a very community-centric approach to York history. We have that 4-block campus now, and what we plan to do in this facility is to tell the story of York, to tell the story of York people through the lens of Crispus Attucks. So 1931, what happened? 1931, we have to kind of put on our imaginary hats here and take ourselves back in time and remember things were different, a little different back then. You had organizations for one class of people and an organization for other classes of people and groups of people, and often based on the color of their skin. So in 1931, there were a couple organizations in York that catered to the Black community. Organizations that provided cultural experiences, educational experiences, recreational experiences, but they were struggling. They weren't as successful as they would like to have been. So there were a number of individuals, two in particular that we'll focus on, Reverend Montooth and Dr. Bowles. These two gentlemen had some ideas about pulling together resources and disparate groups and bringing them together into one organization to serve the Black community. That's the beginning of Crispus Attucks, 1931. They opened their doors, grew rapidly. grew very rapidly. We're looking within about 10, 13 years to find another home. We're just blossoming. Things are going well. Then we get into 1968, 1969. And those of us who have some memory of that or have read up on that time period in York in particular, those were tough times. They were tough times for the Black community. They were tough times for all communities at that time. But there are direct connections. So how are we going to tell that story in 1968, 1969 through the lens of Crispus Attucks? Where's this young man named Bobby Simpson sitting at home, like watching the moon landing? And I got to tell you that was a learning for me. I had never put together that the riots and the moon landing coincided with each other. This young man's watching the moon landing, and his house gets riddled with bullets on Green Street. Now, I'd asked Bobby at one point. I said, "Well, what did the police report uncover?" Boy, did he laugh. He laughed at me. Said there was no police report. I said, "Well, can we go look at the house?" It's like, no, they tore that down. There's a story there. I don't know what that story is, but there's a story there. There's a conversation there that we need to have. And that's what we want to do here in this center. This is a conversation. We'll never know, but it's a conversation that needs to happen. So 1968, 1969, Crispus Attucks is a safe place. It's a haven. It's a place where people can come together. I'm not going to say they solve problems of the world. I'm not going to say that they got people further down the path of unity. But it was a place where people at least knew they could come together and talk. And you're going to hear me say that. And if you listen, and you're going to hear me say this as well. If you listen to Bobby Simpson talk today, and you can roll back a tape and listen to him talk back in 1979, 1980, he's saying the same things. He's saying the same things. He's saying, we don't have to agree with each other, but we can sit down and have a conversation with each other. We don't even have to like each other, but we can have a conversation and we can hear each other's side of the story. So 1968, 1969, the safe haven, things move along here. Coming to, as we approach this 1979, roughly from 1968, 69 to 1979, Crispus Attucks has 10 directors, whether interim or appointed, who then leave. So roughly 10 in 10 years, for a number of reasons. Not the least of which is many of these people who come in, they don't want to live in the city. They're not comfortable with it. They don't feel that that's a safe place. So Crispus Attucks goes through a tremendous amount of turnover and upheaval during that time period. Imagine that, almost one a year. You're seeing new leadership come in and go. 1979, Bobby Simpson's working at Caterpillar, and they have this loaned executive program. So Bobby comes in, kind of scares me because I'm an interim as well. Bobby comes in as an interim. And there's a great newspaper article where they talk to Bobby at the end of that first year, and he doesn't want this job. I don't need this job. Why would I want to do this job? As they're thinking of keeping him on for that second year to have him stay on and help steady things. Well, we'll jump ahead to today. He's still there. That's why I say I really don't get into the beyond, because we're really not into the beyond yet. We're still in 1979. But let me tell you the story about what he walked into at that time. About 95% of Crispus Attucks' revenue came from one source. It came through United Way funding. So the bulk of their money came through United Way. Okay, remember I said 10 directors in about 10 years. They weren't getting results at Crispus Attucks. Things were not going well. And the United Way came to Bobby and said, hey, welcome aboard. you got 6 months. Get it together, or we're gonna take that money. I think there might have been some more colorful words used in there, but Bobby took that to heart. And he made a comment back in 1979 where he said, you know what? This organization will never be dependent on one single source. We will never be told again, you know, what we can and can't do. It just isn't going to happen. And we talk about 1979 as we talk about this in the History and Culture Center. We talk about this as a renaissance. This is where Crispus Attucks went from a single funding stream to a very diversified portfolio of revenue. So if you look now at what they do, and maybe some of you know more about Crispus Attucks than others, I say there's really something for everyone from you know, little one all the way up. We have an early learning center. It's world class. The waiting list is as long as the number of kids in the building. This is a place people want to put their children for that early learning, you know, preschool experience. Crispus Attucks has a job training program where they bring in not just they have a senior citizen focus, but they also have a focus job skills for all ages. But they have a program where folks who are retired, who are looking for some retooling and want some opportunities to learn some new skills and make a few dollars as well, have that opportunity to do that. They have a charter school that accepts students who are essentially at that 12th grade year who haven't found a lot of success in their schooling. And what I think makes this charter school successful and unique is that these kids actually go out and they're on job sites. They're out learning real skills, whether it's, you know, how to drywall or you know, demo work or you know, construction related, medical field related. There are opportunities that these kids didn't have prior to this. So it's kind of a last chance for many of them, but a highly successful program for these children. We have an active living center over there. So senior citizens have a place where they can come and enjoy you know, fellowship and meals with each other. There are school age programs for after school programs, summer programs. They call one of them they call Rising Stars. There are programs throughout the year where we bring in and do job skills training with school age children. So as I mentioned, something from the littlest of our community to folks who are retirement and beyond age. So Crispus Attucks has done that, but I think more importantly, in addition, they own about 180 houses. There's a 4-block campus. So when you're on the roof of our History and Culture Center here this spring, and you look out, pretty much what you see is the Crispus Attucks campus. They own 180 houses in a 4-block radius. Not only do they own the houses that they rent, they own several commercial properties and office facilities. So the Greenway Tech building, that's right next door to Junior Achievement. You have the Claiborne building across the street from there. Those are 2 buildings that Crispus Attucks rents to WellSpan for office space. And I like to think that WellSpan likes being there because that part of the neighborhood is a nice part of the neighborhood. Those 4 blocks are well kept. I get there early most days, and one of the things that always impresses me is Crispus Attucks has staff who are out there making sure that the streets are cleaned up. They're out there taking care of any debris that might be out there. They have a street sweeper picking up the leaves and other debris. I've said to both my kids, if you get a chance to work for an organization that has its own street cleaner, I would do that. That's a good sign. So that's the diversification that came in 1979. Today, Crispus Attucks could lose a funding stream and they'll be okay. They could lose, you know, they could take a couple hits and they would be okay because they're not dependent on a single source, and they're not dependent on only one type of funding here. So that started in 1979 and it continues to today. But we do have to think at some point there will be a beyond. There will be a beyond. And we've made sure that we'll leave space for that story to be told as well. So why does Crispus Attucks need a history and culture center? We have a great story to tell. I think too, when you look at the story that Crispus Attucks can tell, if you want to talk about a way to revitalize a neighborhood, I think there's an example in that 4-block radius, that 4-block campus. I think if you want to talk about a way to uplift people and to retool them and reskill them, I think Crispus Attucks is another example, another place that you could go to see that. So that's, and I'll get into more of that as we go on, but those are some of the reasons why we need to exist. Of course, we did all the things that you're supposed to do. We have a vision and a mission statement, and they're lofty. They're written just like all the other ones, but I think I can summarize them in these 3 bullet points. So the purpose of this center is to promote racial harmony. That's one of our key objectives. We want to also create pride in our community and within ourselves. And if you look around at the charter school, you look at the early learning center, you listen to the staff there talk, you hear this all the time. This is not handouts or these aren't gifts that are given to people. These are instilling pride in people. So when you see these job training programs, these aren't just superficial. These are ways to help people develop genuine pride in themselves. And it's also to hear about the lessons of history. And I think we would agree that we often learn lessons best when those lessons are taught to us by people we know and trust. And that's something else that we will do at this History and Culture Center. You're going to come in there and the stories you're going to hear, the lessons you're going to interpret from those stories are going to come from people you know and you trust. Yeah, your community members, you're going to see them there. I mentioned conversations and I mentioned the stories that are told. A couple of months ago, I started to collect some of these headlines just for fun. Now, I'm not making any judgment on these headlines. They just are. But just take a look at these. Some artifacts removed from the African American History Museum after executive order. And then not too long after that, the Smithsonian disputes claims that Black history artifacts were removed from the museum. I don't know, but that's a great conversation. And I want to go back to 1968, 1969. Crispus Attucks has that reputation of being a place that's safe to have that conversation. So we envision around our cafe, around our coffee shop, out in our courtyard, up on our roof deck. These are the kind of conversations that could happen here. We could talk about a display about Black soldiers in World War II being removed from U.S. military cemetery. This is very recent. It's kind of happened. People just, let's say the Netherlands. Was there one day, was going the next. I don't know what that means. It's a good conversation. A couple more. 381 books removed from the Naval Academy Library. Now, they did get put back, most of them. I think there were 2 or 3 that maybe that didn't. Boy, isn't that a good conversation, talking about that. Also want to get that list of 381 books. Any of you are getting Christmas presents from me, might be coming off of that list. Navy reverses a course on DI books after ban of the Pentagon Review. City crews have begun removing the Black Lives Matter street mural in DC. And I don't know what that means. I know that won't make me sad though. The DC mayor defends the plans for Black Lives Matter Plaza to be painted over. I'd love to talk to him about it, or her, I'm not sure. I'd love to have that conversation. I'd love to understand that. Spain cancels Black Men in White Coats Summit in response to Trump anti-DEI policies. Unfortunately, that's a local one. I'd like to understand that. I'd like to have that conversation. And we think we could be a place where that conversation could happen in a very civil way. So why do we need to exist? We have a great story to tell. And there are conversations out there that need to be had. And we can be that part. We can be a partner in that. So let's take a look at it. I brought renderings today. You thought you were going to get to see some more. Not yet. Here's what I'm going to tell you though. It's better in real life. It's better in real life. So what I'm showing you here tonight, I have to give you that little disclaimer. These are just working models. So you might see an image on here. It doesn't mean it will be in the center. You might see an image on here that's owned by the York County History Center. It's just an example, or an image owned by somebody else. We are going through all the proper channels to make sure we have permission to use those. And we have had a great working relationship with the York County History Center as they have helped us to pull together pieces that we've needed. In fact, we've probably asked more than we should at times from them, but they've been very, very helpful in helping us pull together some of the missing pieces that we have. So what you see here are renderings. They're not actuals, and they're not necessarily what it's going to be when you see it for real. So just know that, please. So we are divided in 4 floors. And we'll take a look here just real quickly, just kind of the broad topics that we'll cover here. And again, remember, we're telling the history through the lens of Crispus Attucks and their near 100-year existence. So on that first floor, you're going to walk in, you're going to be greeted by faces of people you know. There are 2 things on that first floor that I love. One is a video wall. It's 4 55-inch monitors. And the first video you're going to see when you walk in there are people from our community. And there are maybe 2-3 second videos of their faces. So at first you think it's just a portrait. Then they smile, or they turn their head, or they move. And it's captivating. It's a beautiful video. But it's our community right there. There's another wall of 130 portraits of some of the people who have been very instrumental in the history of CA. It's 130, there could be, who knows, thousands more, but a representative group of people that are important to the story of Crispus Attucks. Along that first floor, you'll also learn about the founders. You'll learn about the growth. You'll learn more about that story I told you about the diversification of Crispus Attucks and how they grew from that single funding source to multiple streams of income. You also get a sense of our community there. Like I said, you will see your community represented there. You get to the second floor, we start to get into some tough stuff. We're going to talk about segregation, and we're going to connect that back to why Crispus Attucks had to exist. Black children didn't have the opportunity to learn how to swim in the community swimming pool. Crispus Attucks will help out. We'll take care of that. They didn't have the opportunity to have cultural activities, dance classes, music classes, those types of activities. Crispus Attucks filled that hole. We're going to talk about the civil unrest. And that's going to be a very dynamic component. It's actually an immersive experience. So when you go in there, it's a circular area and you will have images and sound. It's a very moving part of the story that we tell. We do get into the charrette, and we talk about the work that was done during the charrette and the work that still needs to be done from the charrette. And we also at that point, and we were talking earlier tonight about getting history in people's own words. Oral histories play a large part in what we're going to do here. We want to be able to have the people who were there tell their story. And think about that down the road when grandkids come in or great grandkids come in and they can say that's my grandfather, my grandmother, and hear their voice and see their face. So some powerful stories that we've been collecting and will continue to collect. Third floor, we get into the Great Migration. You know, we talk about the legacy families here in York, which there are a number, but then there are the Bambergers, you know, the folks who've come up from the South and come in those great waves. So we're going to tell the story of both those groups of people. We're going to talk about some lost neighborhoods, and there were a number of them here in York. Cador Street being one, Fry's Lane another. Communities where the Black community was thriving, and then they weren't, and they're gone. We will connect to the Underground Railroad. I know that doesn't fit into my nice little 1931 timeline, but as you know, Crispus Attucks does own the Goodrich Freedom Center, and I'll jump on Nicole's First Friday comments. Join us tomorrow. We are open at the Goodrich Freedom Center for our Festival of Trees. We've got, I think, 17 trees and local decorators in there. So we'll be open First Friday, and we'll be open Wednesdays and Saturdays through the month of December. So love to see you join us over there. We're gonna on the third floor get into what we call Mr. Simpson's office. If you've ever been in his office, he has a corner of the office where there's a little round table and chairs. And the two walls that abut in there are filled floor to ceiling with pictures of Bobby with first ladies, Bobby with presidents, athletes, Maya Angelou, Sidney Poitier, on and on. Those pictures tell some amazing stories. We're going to actually take those pictures and put them over in the center, and we're going to use those pictures to tell the stories from 1979 on that Bobby has experienced. We'll also on this floor be talking about families and genealogy. We'll be helping our community to learn a little bit more about their historic, their family roots. And we're also going to celebrate cultural aspects, in particular music. Music has been a big part of CA. And for those of you who don't know, and he'll be unhappy I shared it with you, but Bobby actually does play the organ. Hasn't for a while, and I have pictures of it, and I use those, I hold those over him at times. But wouldn't that be amazing to have him do an organ recital for us at some point? I put it out there. I don't know. I'll probably get beat by it for saying that now, but no, I think celebrating that, and for people who know Bobby to find out that he has that musical side is important. So that's in a nutshell what we'll cover on each of the floors. This is just another view of it, and I thought this was a neat way to look at the building. The other part, I'm just kind of proud of it. At the time, she was one of our interns, created this with zero training, and it's actually going to be a part of our display to help you navigate when you come in. But just really proud of the work that Gabby did when she came up with this layout of our building. So here's a rendering of what that first floor looks like, and you see the screen in the back there, that black wall. That's that 455-inch monitors that I've mentioned, and imagine with that, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures up there, any combination of that. So those screens are all interactive, and faces and people could fill all 4 screens, could fill 1, 2, 3 of them. Very dynamic. Off to the left side there, you'll see the large photographs of some of our founders, some people you recognize right off the bat. You see Mrs. Thaxton right there. That's a face that's easily recognized. And then that portrait wall that I mentioned is right behind it. This is just looking at that from a different angle. So the back side of that founders wall. And again, you'll see people like Mr. Pullo up there, people who've had a significant impact on Crispus Attucks. So we'll be featuring those people here. up close look at those 4 monitors. I promise you that in person is mind blowing. Just looking now, what this is really capturing, I think one of the very unique features of this building is the wood structure inside. We're a timber frame building and one of the only ones this part of the country. But what I think is most magnificent is that staircase. All 3 floors go right up this wooden staircase. You can see a skylight above it. It's just stunning. It's a beautiful look. We do have an elevator in case you don't want to try to conquer that, but it's worth standing at the top or bottom of it and taking a look at it. It's beautiful. So here's where we get into conversations like the civil unrest. You'll notice the armored personnel carrier here. Little display cabinets. This is where we'll have items where we'll be talking about individual families, and this will be changeable. These exhibits will change out very frequently, so we'll be able to showcase and feature families very quick, very easily here. Just giving you another angle here. Obviously, this section we're talking about lost neighborhoods. We're talking about the concept of emancipation and freedom. So heavy on photographs and images. This is Bobby's office. This is showing you one corner of it. And quite honestly, that doesn't do it justice. There are far more pictures on those walls than you see there. I want to talk a little bit about the screen right in front of me. As we have been digging through boxes and archives of artifacts from especially Bobby's time here, we came across numerous letters, cards, messages that he's received over the last many years. That's all but 50 years. And we actually have digitized them and put them into we'll call it digital corkboard. So these messages will come up here, and then we intersperse that with interviews of people talking about their experiences with Crispus Attucks and with Bobby. You'll find this hard to believe, but he hasn't wanted to be on camera. So we decided, the best way then to tell the story, let other people tell the story about him. If he doesn't want to tell it, we're going to let other people talk about what he's accomplished and what he's meant. I love that section. It's powerful. And the best part of it is all of this is we have more time and we find more items. All of it can be changed and updated. So I promise you, as you come in, you will see different things every time you're there. This is what we call our Unity Courtyard. We have a beautiful back courtyard. We debated what to call it. And we felt that unity in a word was really what we were about. And back to what I said earlier about us coming together for conversations, this could be an ideal place for people to engage with each other. You'll notice on the ground, and again, these are not accurate, but we have quotes. We have 5 bands where we have quotes from Yorkers out there. So, obviously we have a Bobby quote. We have a Dr. Holliday quote. He's very important to Bobby's growth and development as a leader. Tom Wolfe is represented out there. So just another nice touch. Just kind of a cutaway of the building, just to give you a bit of a sense of it. That's just the backside of the building. This room's amazing. And this picture is absolutely not even close to how great it is. We have a large room that seats, I think it's 220 people. With a stage, audio-visual, much like this room, the ability to have interaction in that room. But my favorite part was also the part that took the most time. It's that back wall. That back wall is covered in newspaper articles that relate to Crispus Attucks and York history. So we actually went and got the articles. Then we had to do some work with them, digitizing them, blowing them up and formatting them, and then they went to the printer and were put on I don't even want to say a wallpaper type material, but kind of like a wallpaper. If you're familiar, back in the day, there were these things called fat heads that people would hang, like it was like a football helmet or something. It's kind of that material where it's very durable, but it is also a nice look to it. That wall, you're gonna walk in there and you're gonna see something different every single time you look at it. Your eye will be drawn to something different every single time. But what's been great is there have been people, Bobby in particular said, I mentioned the Green Street House. So I was looking for that newspaper article. So come here, it's right, it's right here on the wall. So it's neat to have those things there. Be a great backdrop, but I think more importantly, it's gonna be a great conversation piece for people. Our rooftop deck. Yeah, the Yorktown has one, but now so do we. And ours is better because it's ours. But up here, you'll have your wayfinding and informational panels. So we'll be able to talk to you up there about the 4-block campus. We'll be able to help direct you and show you where the civil unrest took place and talk about some of those key pieces. So I know I'm coming up on time here. I want to and I didn't intend for you to be able to read this. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the programming that we're going to do here in this center. And I kind of in my mind, I've come to kind of the thought of how are we different than the York County History Center? I think there are a couple unique distinctions. They have an amazing archive here. Again, world class, not to overuse that term, but it's world class. We don't have the quantitative research stuff. But what we do have is the cultural aspects and the qualitative, the stories. And they have that here too, but that is our primary focus, our primary way of telling the story of Crispus Attucks and the history of York. So one of the things we did, we created this worksheet here. We call it a Day in CA History. And we went through and we've been collecting this now for a year. And we looked for events that were related to CA, things that were important in CA's history, and we filled them in here. So, we talk about like up there January 1st, William Goodrich. That connects to CA. But then you'll notice not all of them do. So where we didn't have a CA specific date yet, we went with a local, then we went with a national, and we went with international. So we started to fill in and tell the Black story here. So we were looking for those key things that have happened throughout time. So you're going to notice we talk about the constitutional amendments here because that's important to telling the story. So that was kind of how we started. We started to pull together all this information, by the day. Then we sat down and we said, okay, what are some ideas of activities that we could do with our community? Let's go back to 1931 to the roots, bringing people together, that fellowship and providing opportunities that people weren't having other places. Some of these we may never do. Some of them are, they're just brainstorming, but others we just might. So we sat down, we said, well, what could we do as far as writing? What could we do as far as fashion and again, fashion played a large part in CA, sewing clubs and taking pride in your appearance. So we tried to think about those topics that were important to the folks back in 1931 and through the history. And then we even started to pull resources that we were finding just to have a warehouse. So we just started to gather these ideas, activities. Some more music ideas, gardening ideas, a whole bunch. And then we went and we broke it down into monthly activities. If you go online and you take a look, every month has a number of things associated with it. You know, September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. September also is Hispanic Heritage or alopecia awareness, prostate health, all kinds of different themes throughout the month. So we said, well, how can we pull some of those in to help serve our community, educate our community? So we just started to brainstorm again. So just as a quick example, say that first week of September, there's a gentleman named Daniel Chappie James. He was the first Black four-star general. Well, and that happened in this 1975, that first week of September. Found I think it's a 90-second clip. 1975, he was accused of being a DEI hire. Well, haven't we heard that before? It was going on back in 1975, and his discussion of it is masterful. So that's something we're going to focus on that first week of September when we're open, you know, next September when we're open. That'll be something we'll talk about. Something else we'll talk about, Frederick Douglass escaping from being enslaved. So that's how we're going to pull these themes together. So every week when you come in there, we're going to have a different focus. We're going to have a different topic of discussion. Could be big, it could be small. Could just be one monitor in the building that's got some information on it. It could be a lecture series. It could be a program, everything in between. So then what we did is we decided we got to keep track of this because we got to remember what we're doing. So then we created for each month all these different activities that were possible. And we just, you know, just for example's sake, we clicked off a couple of them here. The thing we're going to add to them, we're going to actually add a column for date so that we can look and say, okay, in 2026, we did this. And maybe we're going to do it every year. Or maybe we're going to do it every so many years. But wanted to keep track of these ideas of different activities and different topics that we might address throughout the course of each month. So we have one of those for each month. They're multiple pages. Again, I didn't mean for you to be able to read this just so much as you to get a sense of the scope of what we're talking about. Again, breaking it down by week and coming up with some more ideas. So as an example, National Grandparents Day, we brainstormed some ideas of things we might do for that to celebrate that time period. So those are the concepts, the ideas of how we plan to do different things throughout the course of the weeks, the months. Yes, there will be static exhibits there. But there will be ever-changing informational panels and programs that we'll offer throughout the course of the year. I did leave just a few minutes if we want to engage in any questions.
We give him a round of applause, please. That when people ask questions, would you mind rephrasing it?
So, hi, I have a couple of questions. One is, do we know when I'm really excited, I was really excited about this museum and I'm really excited. I live in the city, my kids went to city schools. They missed a big chunk of York history. And I'm really excited to see this. And then to see it when they come, they don't live here, when they come back and have my grandkids see it. It's so important. Do we have any idea when the ribbon cutting will be?
Well, I've said, so when are we going to open? And that's a question I can't walk from 605 Duke Street across without getting asked that question. So, but thank you. And your enthusiasm, your energy is very welcomed, and I appreciate that. Our goal is to hit it here in the spring.
Good. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm home.
Yeah, if not sooner. I mean, if sooner we will. But I the glib answer would always be when we're ready.
Right.
And that's partly true, when we're ready, but we also didn't want there to be holes in the building, and we didn't want you to say to people, well, you can't go down that hallway or you can't go out there in the morning. But I would say that we definitely will be enjoying the rooftop deck and the courtyard this spring at the latest.
And my second question is sustainability. So we have a membership program or, you know, you wanna talk about that we can start getting excited about too?
Yep. So Crispus Attucks way back started out as a membership only organization. They sold memberships. And we have had numerous conversations on what that might look like for this facility. We will need to charge something. We will need to have a membership program to get in there. But we also recognize that it has to be economical. And we also want you to come back every week, maybe a couple times a week. So we want to make sure that our memberships are economical, but yet also invite you back in. So we'll have kind of tiers for that, and we'll be looking at our out-of-town visitors to help offset some of that for us. So you're bringing in bus trips and Explore York, give a shout out to them, have been wonderful to work with.
Not that they have.
And they are excited to be able to start to advertise us and help us to bring in those outside tourist groups. I know there's energy growing across not just York County, but Lancaster County. Just this whole concept of Black history, Underground Railroad is, I mean, we got great things going on in Wrightsville and Columbia, Lancaster with the Thaddeus Stevens House, and you could, you know, keep going west, the same story. So we're looking at that to help offset those costs. I didn't mention that we have about a 45-seat classroom that's technologically advanced as well. That in that large group room. So I see us using rental facility meeting space as being another way to keep that membership cost very low.
So I think, and you'll have more, like, at your ribbon cutting and opening, you'll have announcements and stuff.
Absolutely. And we look to have multiple grand openings. You know, I obviously we have our big supporters, and we were blessed to have a number of large donors and a number of people who donated at a level that they could do. So we want to make sure we acknowledge that. Also want to make sure we acknowledge our neighborhood. They had to put up with our construction and our construction dirt, so we want to make sure that we celebrate with them and then our full community. Yes, sir.
How have you interviewed Loretta Claiborne to put her?
She's have we talked to Loretta Claiborne? Not yet, but she's on our list of people.
Special Olympics teaching her how to ski. She had stories on the chairlift you wouldn't believe.
I'll make sure to ask her about the chairlift. We do have one of the torches she carried, so that will be one of our prized artifacts.
Some of her stories are more on a national level. But
Yes. Yeah. But they touch York. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I don't, unless I missed it, I don't think you mentioned President Obama, number one. And number two, you know, the story's ongoing. So is this, do you expect that it's gonna continue as the story goes on? Or are we kind of like focusing in on what you've outlined so far, like
So are we continue, or do we see the story continuing, and do we see the exhibits changing?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we not only do we have your typical static, permanent exhibits, we have a good many of our exhibits that are both digital and or easily changed out. So we have display cabinets. So our goal is to change out. I didn't even touch on the artwork in the building. We have a tremendous collection of local artwork that will be on display there, and we expect that will be curated and changed out frequently. But Frankie Greer, local artist, will be our first major show, art show there. So there will be, the story will continue to evolve and grow and change as we know more and as we find more or more is created. And then you said I didn't mention President Obama. I'm not sure. as far
Well,
as,
I mean, just it being such a significant event in
Oh.
American history, I didn't know if you had anything reflecting on those. Not local enough.
I understand. No, I thought you were offering to bring them in and. You know, it's as you say that, I'm picturing an image hanging in the lobby at 6:05, and it's a picture of President Obama smiling. And it's a picture, and right next to it, juxtaposed to it, is a picture of Bobby smiling. And it's actually it's a neat contrast, contrast with similarities. So thanks. That's one more thing I need to think about. But I understand your question though as well as you know, are we going to talk about the story of that was a first, a huge first. So yeah, thanks.
There are pictures of President Obama or candidate Obama visiting Boyd Hydro.
Yeah,
And he was related to people in York County.
Yeah.
There are people in York County today that might be related to him.
yeah. All right. More to think about. Thank you. Yes.
So, this is really exciting. As you know, I was one of the people involved with, getting the William Goodrich Center
Yes.
open, and, Carol Kaufman was just such a visionary. And one of the things I loved that she did for us as volunteers was she leveraged the van that, that CA had at the time. I don't know exactly what you have right now, but, and took us all down. We had a wonderful trip to the National Capital and to the Smithsonian, the African American Cultural Center.
Yeah.
There, and History Center, and I just I was wondering if you have thoughts. It really leads me to think two things. One, like as far as staffing and volunteers, are you going to be recruiting volunteers, and then also like are you foreseeing field trips and stuff?
So good question and good comment. So talking about how are we going to staff the building, and then what kind of trainings or background or information, and we also have to just you threw out a shout out to Carol Kaufman, and I didn't know Carol before coming to CA, but she continues to be an amazing individual and continues to be a great resource. So she has been a big help for me in sometimes just understanding how we've gotten to certain places. So I continue to lean on her and hope to be able to do that for quite some time. I mentioned a senior work program that CA offers. That is my first and foremost source of folks to work there for us. Again, back to that concept of we want community people there. I want you to walk through the door and say, I know her, or I've seen that person. And they are the right people. I have a few, we've already started with our cleaning crew in the building, even though we're not open. It's amazing how much dirt and dust a building can create. But we're learning the building and we're understanding it. So we're going slowly and bringing people in. I'm also working on 3 people to run the cafe. We have a functional coffee shop, more prepared type foods, but same approach. I want it to be community people that will be there. Absolutely, the idea of field trips or broader learning has come up. There's been some discussions. We've got some exciting ideas for some community theater that we'll present. But to understand the community theater that we're going to present, there are some backstories that we need to actually go and take some field trips. So it's on our mind. It absolutely is on our mind. We've done some little stuff. Pennsylvania does a show, an art show there, the Pennsylvania Museum. They call it the Art of the State. We've actually visited that. Just to get some ideas of how would we curate and how would we maybe program our art collection and do some more. So in a small way, yes, we visited the Mifflin farm. Very jealous of where they are at this point in their development. They've got a great plan. Great.
You're farther along than we are.
We had a head start, but some really good stuff going on. But So staffing, there will, I have to say, Mr. Kirkland, Jeff Kirkland. He's we call him our lead historian. He's an integral part to what we're doing. And again, people are gonna walk in and they're gonna be excited that he's there. You know, and recognize him. I say to him, boy, I think I'm just gonna sit you down at the coffee shop and just let people have at you all day and it'll be good. So I hope I answered your question there.
You know, visiting displays from his personal museum at his house.
He keeps threatening to take me to his garage. I haven't seen this yet, but yeah,
It's amazing.
he's amazing. I'll take one more question if there is one. Okay. I two things. First of all, thank you. I appreciate the attentiveness. I appreciate the enthusiasm. As we open, we will definitely be ramping up the conversations, and you will know. It will be hard to miss us once we open, and we hope to see you there. And as I said before, not just once, but multiple times throughout the week. It'd be great. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Sky. I know Pete and I started adjuncting at York College, and I had a student this week who chose to present on the race riots. And she was inspired by Jim McClure, who came in and talked about it. She's graduated from William Penn, and so I took an opportunity to ask her, what did you learn about the race riots in school? How was it contextualized for it? And she said, the first time I learned about it was in this class. I thought, well, first off, I've had students when I was a high school teacher tell the next grade teacher that they never learned that in my class, and they did. Okay, we did go over it. So I do wonder if she wasn't there that day. But I'm very appreciative of CA having that as an opportunity for our youth. And to Ann's point, hopefully we can get kids across the county and beyond to come into this. So it's not just a city thing, that it's a county thing as well. So thank you again, Scott. Really appreciate your time. Now we're gonna talk about what everyone else is working on. This is Writers Roundtable, so I'd love to hear from a few of you of some of your projects. So I have some plugs. I asked some people in advance if they would come up because I know you're all super busy. So I asked Stephen Smith to come up first. He always has new projects he's working on.
Okay, my projects, I have a talk coming up in June or January 8th that I haven't started working on it yet. So it was a requested one to do a talk on kind of human interest stories associated with airports in York County. They saw my article about Amelia Earhart arriving at the airport in York. To do a talk at William Penn High School. And he said, what other personalities arrived at airports? So I started looking through newspapers.com and I was surprised at the stories I could pull from there. So I got a full talk planned on that. The first one is that for a church group that requested this on, like I said, early next year. So I'm working on that now. I have given my talk on John Elgar and the first iron steamboat. I've given 2 talks on that so far. I guess it's on a second Saturday talk sometime next year at the History Center. Plus, I have 2 other requests for it. So that's like that article has basically evolved into 5 different talks. As a result of the first 2 talks, they asked me to talk more about his brother, which was Jacob. Jacob, and he was the superintendent of buildings in Washington, D.C., which is how his brother got the job of designing the hinges for the Capitol building. So it's like, but he has an amazing story. And from the standpoint of where he's buried, he's actually buried in the Congressional Cemetery. I didn't know there was a Congressional Cemetery, but he's buried in one of the first ones to be buried there. And so I'm kind of putting that in my talk, along with some other things associated with it. I have some talks coming up on for Spring Township. I've been doing one early developments in the township in the southeast part. And I have two other part talks with family history related talks that I'm working on. So I'm busy with those. Those are my busy subjects there.
Stephen, if they want to reach you to present, how do they reach you?
Go to my blog site. My email is on there. It's York's Past blog site. So yorkblog.com, York's Past. Just type in York's Past, like ORKSPAST, all one word. It usually is the first thing that come up in Google. So you can find me that way.
Thanks, Stephen. And Stephen's going to be a presenter next week at our York County History Storytellers Evening on December 11th, if you haven't bought your tickets yet. Rich is also always busy, so he'll come up and share a few words. I met Rich a couple years ago with his research with horse thieves in York history.
Good evening. I'll try to keep this a little short. Tom Nealing and I volunteered to be co-leaders for an update of a spreadsheet in the archives here. Grant Voden in the 1940s and 1970s, over those 30 or 40 years, developed a master list of 271 mills in York County. Over the years, some of the data got lost. He had a file folder for each mill. And the current list has 25 mill numbers, but no names. So our first order of our business was to figure out what the names are. That's been done. But now we're actually looking at the list in general, and we're going to expand it to make it more up to date. We were going to add property tax ID numbers, street addresses, coordinate numbers for the mills, whether they're existing. Coordinate numbers will be either based on the maps that we have of record, or if there's still parts of the structure still standing. And we're still looking for volunteers to help do some of the field work or deep research. But it should be it's a challenge, and we have a good staff that's starting to really work their butts off. They'll probably slow down here over the winter time, but you can always do deep research in winter time. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. And then we have two representatives from the Mifflin House. So we've got Pete, and then my lunch date for Monday, actually, Randy Parker. So I'm not sure if you both want to come up, or Pete and then Randy, but all right.
No, he can talk about all he's learned from me. Thank you. Yeah, so the big exciting thing that's happening at the Mifflin Farm is we're undertaking a historic structures and cultural landscape report on the house, the barn the original barn foundation, which if you've been out there, there's the large barn, and then there's actually a smaller barn foundation that was probably the second structure on the property. So we're doing a historic structures report on those two, and then sort of the core 40 acres of the property. And we're working with a team out of Chad's Ford, John Milner Architects, and they brought on a group from University of Pennsylvania to do the cultural landscape report. And we were out there with them the Thursday before Thanksgiving, and it was fascinating. And we had the Blessings, Donnie and Shelby Blessing, who lived in the house for almost 40 years, and actually Donnie lived there for 70 years because he grew up in the house. And he said that he learned more in 5 minutes than he knew in 70 years of living there about looking, being able to work with historic architects that know what they're looking for, know what they're looking at. So we're really excited to be able to get that report. It should be finished sometime in March or April, and then use that as a springboard to think about what our interpretation of the house and the property will be, and sort of leading towards architecture and engineering of the Underground Railroad Learning Center. So that's kind of where we are on the project right now. Randy and I have had a couple of meetings with Charles Stewart. I don't know if that name rings a bell for anybody, but he has a podcast called It's Not History. And he did a 22 episode series on the Conestoga Indian massacres. Now I know we're not in Lancaster County, But it's a fascinating series, and I highly recommend it. You can get it on Apple. And he is working on an idea for a new season, focusing on Black history in York and Lancaster County. And we met with him on Tuesday, and we're talking about the riots. So plenty more conversations to come, but as that happens, we want to be able to loop in more people sitting in this room. He's kind of looking to us to be people that are kind of connectors. So we're really excited about that, and it'll turn into something. I don't know what his timeline is, but probably next year. Does that sound all about right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
I'm not sure why George picked the pregnant lady to keep getting up and down for the segment, but thank you, Jim. It's good for my. I indulged this Thanksgiving feat. Sean Coxon is also here. He's done a lot of work with the Raymeyer House and the Hex Hollow. If you'd like to come up and share some of the work you've been doing.
Yeah, again, I'm Sean Coxon, and I'm a recent convert to York County. I was born and spent most of my life in Maryland, just down the road. What brought me here was the story of Nelson Raymeyer. And I became so involved in it that right now I am living in the house of Nelson Raymeyer's wife. I don't know if you know the story too much, but maybe some of you know that his wife left him 4 years before he was murdered. She went back to her farm where she grew up, and I'm living in that farm right now, renting it. I have started a blog. I might be starting a book. I don't know. It seems like an awfully big job. I'm a low energy person, and unfortunately, you have to work a day job. If you're a historian, you have to work a day job in order to pay the bills. So I find that I don't have a lot of energy when I get home from work. But I am working. I have just started the blog. We've been talking a good deal about museums tonight. There has been talk on and off of the Nelson Raymeyer House becoming a museum. That's not going to happen, in case anybody's curious about that, and it's kind of sad. The inside of the house is being consumed by moisture and mold, and the outside of the house is being consumed by carpenter bees. And I find that a sad situation, but I am next door neighbor to and one of the best friends with Nelson's great grandson. And he's just doesn't have any plans for the house. And, sorry about that, but I am an advocate for Nelson Raymeyer. He was not a witch. He was not an evil man. He never cursed anybody. He was no more a witch than the Easter Bunny. He never trafficked with demons or devils or anything like that. Raymeyer's Hollow is not an evil place. The stories they talk about in Raymeyer's Hollow about all the horrible things that will happen to you if you tread down there, they're just not true, because Nelson Raymeyer never was an evil man. And well, I can't say he never did a bad thing in his life, but he was not a witch, and I hope to rehabilitate his reputation, because too many people think of Nelson Raymeyer in Raymeyer's Hollow as being a dark place and being a place for devil worshippers. No, he is not buried in the hollow under a pentagram, as some stories have it. No, if you throw rocks at the house will not throw the rocks back at you. None of these things. The roads don't switch around at nighttime. None of these things happen. So, but yeah, I'm starting the blog and came tonight. I'm hoping to learn more about media, different media I can use. And if anybody wants to talk to me, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Sean.
Oh, should I mention the movie?
Sure, yeah, if you'd like to. Couple words.
Yeah. Just briefly, if any of you saw the movie Hex Hollow, the documentary movie about Nelson Raymeyer and the Hex murder, you saw me in that movie. I don't look the same. So You won't recognize me, but I was a co-producer, researcher and presenter in that movie.
How can people watch that movie?
Sorry.
How can people watch it?
You can watch the movie, I think it's on YouTube in a pirate version. But you can also get it on, well, I didn't make the movie. When people watch it, I don't make a dime, so I'm not gonna tell you to spend $2.99 or whatever to rent it, but I think you can rent it off Amazon Prime. And also on some of the movie streaming apps like Tubi and Plex, you can find it there. Hex Hollow is the name of the movie.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I require as one of my obligations to my students at your college is they have to pick a local history topic and present on it. And I had 2 students that chose that. So clearly it's an interest to the next generation. So it's very important to differentiate between fact and folklore. So thank you, Sean, for continuing that work. And of course, Jim and everyone else who's written on it. All right, who else? There's a few other people in the audience. Anne, want to come up?
So first I thought I'd mention Pete, when I moved here in 2014, I actually spent my first 2 years here studying the riots and with Peter Levy and stuff. I met Carol Kaufman because I went to CA to be like, what are you gonna do about the riots? And she was like, well, we have this 80th reunion and this William Goodrich thing, and she just like recruited me, and then I never looked back. No, I continue to nudge people about needing to have those difficult conversations, so I'm glad that's moved forward. I wanted to mention 2 things. I'm sorry I wasn't here last month, but of course in October, the Pennsylvania Historical Association meeting was really wonderful and fabulous, and I had the honor of bringing together 3 amazing ladies, Rebecca Anstein and Allison Renner and Samantha Dorn, for a panel on African American families here and in Central PA, and I didn't realize until like I was there and afterwards that this was a conference that doesn't put together proceedings. Because as I read as I went to presentations about with papers and stuff, like I followed up with Charles Stambaugh about his paper that he presented about NACHIP and the high school program, and I was just so excited. And I was like, why don't we have proceedings for the PHA meetings? So I might end up volunteering to put those together next year at least. But I really want to help some of our local historians get published in a more wider sense. So if anybody's working on something and you want to hash it out for the PHA journal itself, let me know. I'm easy to reach, netmouse@netmouse.com. I have an editing background, so the other thing I wanted to mention though was since you were talking about programs and stuff, that I really wanted to say, I mean, we're all trying to recruit each other as volunteers for everything, right? But Tina Charles and Ashley Edsweiler and I had started a conversation with some of the staff here at the History Center about some of the programs that we have had at different times in York for youth. And like Dan Rowe had a terrific program that he did over at the Agricultural and Industry Museum for the summers. And at different times, the History Society had a youth history society, and the William Penn actually had one separately. And we'd really like to get that going again for all the same reasons Scott was talking about: building pride, building capacity, making sure that current stories are being captured and that stories of generations that are still with us but maybe won't be for long are captured. And so if anybody wants to help with that, feel free to contact me or Tina or Valerie Long. And there's some different opportunities. One is for a summer specific program, like an internship like Dan used to run. Another one is just to mentor kids who are working on projects. We have, like very close in Maryland, they run the National History Day program, and we only have one high school here in York that is actually having somebody participate in it, and that's a multi-stage competition to do a history project. So we would love to see more of our youth getting involved, and I think that really is going to require some mentorship. So thank you for your time.
And thank you, Anne. That National History Day is no joke. I used to do it with my ninth graders, and it took a month of time and the curriculum to build. Yeah. Who else? Awesome. Well, what a robust group. Thank you so much for sharing. And now I'll ask Dami to come up and share next presentation.
Thanks, Jamie. So the next time we meet will be in March. So if we don't see you, happy holidays to everybody. And before we sign off, our next meeting is going to have Nisi DeShields, Tina Charles, and Becky Anstein, and they're going to be talking about Southern York County and specifically their research on work in cemetery restoration and family history. So if you're interested in anything that has to do with local York County, Southern York County cemeteries and family history, that's the presentation you want to be at. So thank you for coming tonight, whether you were online or here in person, but we appreciate you and we will see you again in March.